Dozens of Palestinians, including children and local journalist Mohammed Abu Jabr and his family, were killed in Israeli attacks across the Gaza Strip. The shelling in northern Gaza and the Nuseirat refugee camp resulted in numerous civilian deaths. Palestinian Adnan Abu Jabr condemned the attacks, calling them an unprecedented crime, accusing Israel of ignoring international community and human rights concerns. In southern Lebanon, an Israeli air raid on an ammunition depot in Adlan wounded at least 3 people. Meanwhile, in Yemen, Israeli air raids on oil storage facilities and a power station in Hodeidah killed at least 3 people and injured 87 others, according to the Houthi-run health ministry. This followed a Houthi drone strike in Tel Aviv that killed 1 person and wounded at least 10 others. The international community has been quick to respond to these developments. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres expressed deep concern over Israel's air attacks in and around Hodeidah, calling for all parties to exercise utmost restraint and avoid harming civilians. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia's defense ministry denied any involvement in the targeting of Hodeidah and emphasized that Saudi airspace would not be infiltrated by any party. The Israeli attacks come after the International Court of Justice, or ICJ, issued a landmark ruling calling for an end to Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories. This ruling has intensified calls from governments and human rights organizations worldwide to address Israeli actions. On the domestic front, these international and political pressures are reflected in the actions and sentiments of Israeli citizens. Thousands of Israelis protested in Tel Aviv and West Jerusalem, demanding the government negotiate the return of captives held in Gaza. In Jerusalem, banners urged Prime Minister Netanyahu to secure an agreement with Hamas. Protesters argued that ending the war was the key to bringing the hostages home. Alon Gat, brother of Israeli captive Carmen Gat, declined Netanyahu's invitation to accompany him to Washington, D.C., accusing the Prime Minister of blocking progress on a U.S. proposed ceasefire deal. It may be noted here that Israel has increased military and settler activity in the occupied territories since the ICJ verdict. Israeli forces raided Kalkilia in the occupied West Bank, displacing a family and preparing to demolish their home. This action is part of a broader pattern of increased demolitions and land seizures in the West Bank, with 2023 seeing more land taken than the previous 20 years combined. Violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank continues unabated, creating what the ICJ has described as a coercive environment aimed at displacing Palestinians and annexing their territory. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir responded to potential U.S. sanctions on ultranationalist ministers, threatening to dismantle the Palestinian Authority completely. Reports indicate the Biden administration is considering these sanctions due to Israeli settlement expansion policies in the occupied West Bank.